A hotel key card slipped out of the pile of clothes Ava usually wore. The gold foil letters spelling out Presidential Suite burned into my retinas. I stood there, frozen, unsure if I should pick it up or confront her first. Across the office, she was still lost in her work, expertly handling the company's daily fires. Hearing the soft thud of the card hitting the floor, she peeked her head out from behind her monitor. What was that? I folded her jacket neatly, then knelt to pick up the card. Someone left their key card here. I placed it on the desk in front of her. Her hand, which had been flipping through a contract, paused. She casually tossed the document aside. I decided to press just a little. Should we get it back to them? Ava picked up the card, tracing the lettering with her thumb. She shot a quick, unreadable glance at my face, then let out a small laugh. Oh, it's for you. You travel so much for work. And with this card, you can check into the Presidential Suite at over 30,000 five-star hotels nationwide. She added, things have been so crazy lately, I must have just stuck it in my pocket and forgotten to give it to you. I just grunted in response, not wanting to get tangled in a conversation that was destined to go nowhere. A lie is a lie. It didn't take long for the card's true owner to surface. He made a show of dropping it right in front of me before slowly bending down to retrieve it. As if that wasn't enough, he pulled out a handkerchief and began polishing it with exaggerated care. Ethan, my man, he said, his eyes still fixed on the gleaming plastic card. Drinks tonight? The gold letters shimmered under the office lights, making my eyes ache. I tore my gaze away and went back to my work. Ava's eyes flickered toward us. Her expression tightened for a second before she stood up and started walking over. It was only then that I noticed the guy was still holding his inviting pose, waiting for my answer. Belatedly, I shook my head. No thanks. I don't really drink. The company had just landed a huge new client. In the 2 years we'd been dating, I had been the architect of every single one of her company's marketing strategies. To keep this new client happy, I'd been draining every last second of my time on market research. I continued to scan the data my assistant had just handed me. If there's nothing else, you can go. This data was proprietary, and I had to be careful. Ava came up beside me, leaning in close. How's it looking? You have a plan taking shape. I turned my head slightly, my eyes meeting hers. Her cheeks were faintly flushed, her breathing a little quick. I could see a tiny reflection of myself in her dark pupils. A knot formed in my chest, and I looked away. Not yet. This is all data from 2 years ago. There could be some significant deviations. I have faith in you, she said, her voice soft. But you need to take care of yourself, too. Don't burn out. Without another word, she started kneading my shoulders right there in the middle of the open plan office. We kept talking about work. By the time I looked up again, the guy was long gone. Before Ava left, she leaned down and kissed my forehead. About the data. If you have to, just go do the field research yourself. I know you can handle it. Let me know if you need anything at all. You have my full support. Before I could reply, she waved and walked away. Okay, Ethan, I gotta get back to it. By the time I looked up from my screen, she was gone. I buried my head in my work again, letting myself sink into the world of numbers. It was the only place I found any peace these days. The data points on the page jumped and blurred, tangling with my thoughts. You'd laugh at me if you saw me now, struggling with something so simple, wouldn't you? Suddenly, a breeze from the open window blew a piece of paper directly onto my face, covering my eyes. My world went dark, and every sound in the office was suddenly magnified. At the same time, in the CEO's office next door. So, when are you planning on dumping Ethan? Ava's best friend, Chloe, swirled the coffee in her mug, a playful smirk on her face. I thought he was just supposed to be your placeholder for Julian. Don't tell me you're actually getting attached. My hand, which had been reaching up to remove the paper from my face, froze in midair. I let it fall back onto my face. Of course not. Ava's voice was cool. The timing just isn't right. We have to wait a little longer. Another gust of wind rustled the papers on my desk. The conversation next door continued. Back when Julian went abroad. Whoosh! A stronger gust blew through the office, and I couldn't make out the rest of their words. The paper that had been on my face was now gone, whisked away somewhere. I stood up, shut the window, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. Through the glass wall of her office, Ava saw me leaving and paused. Ethan, I stopped. When she stepped out her office, I managed a small, flat smile. I'm feeling a little burned out. I'm heading home early. She started walking toward me, then stopped abruptly, leaving a careful distance between us. She was standing in a patch of light from the window, and I couldn't quite make out her expression. After a long moment, she finally replied, Okay, get some rest. I didn't go home. I drove for an hour to an old diner on the west side. As the familiar city blocks slid past my window, the frantic buzzing in my chest slowly began to quiet. Hey, Sal. The usual. A few minutes later, the owner brought over a patty melt and fries, setting it down on the counter. He glanced around before leaning in. Haven't seen you in here in a while, kid. Not since you graduated. Where's your girlfriend? I looked down and took a huge bite of the sandwich. It tasted exactly the same, still the best in the city. But everything else had changed. I felt a wave of panic. The comfortable lie I'd been living in was about to be ripped away. I ate every last bite, mopping up the grease with the last piece of toast. I even drank the rest of my coffee, which I usually let go cold. It was dark by the time I got back to the apartment. The lights were on, which was rare. The moment I stepped through the door, Ava wrapped her arms around me. Where were you? She asked, holding on tight. I told her the truth, that I'd gone out to eat. She seemed to relax at that, pulling me over to the couch. Still, a hint of suspicion lingered in her voice. What took you so long? I went for a walk after dinner. Ava gently pushed me down, so my head was resting in her lap, and began massaging my temples. You should have called me. We haven't gone for a walk together in ages. Besides, it's late. I was worried. After a moment, she changed the subject. Hey, come with me to a party tomorrow night. Some of my friends are back from overseas. I want you to meet them. I frowned. I had no desire to meet her friends or get tangled up in her social life. I hated crowds and complications. My refusal was automatic. No thanks. You know I'm not a fan of big parties. But, besides, I cut in, I need to spend tomorrow digging into this data. I want to lock down this client as soon as possible. Seeing I played my trump card, she dropped it. Why do you love resting your head on my lap so much? She asked, her voice turning playful. I opened my eyes, studying her from this strange, inverted angle, trying not to miss a single detail. Noticing my intense gaze, the corners of her mouth lifted into a smile. She chuckled, her hands sliding from my head down my neck. Her body leaned down, our faces so close they were almost touching. I'm right here, you know, she whispered, her warm breath on my cheek. Don't you have any other ideas? The closer she got, the more her face blurred, becoming a beautiful but indistinct shape. I gently pushed her away. I'm thinking I need to do the on-the-ground market research myself. Things are going to be busy. Ava looked delighted, no longer probing to see if I'd overheard anything. She was completely at ease. That night, she cooked a huge dinner. If you're not going to eat much, at least have a drink with me, she said. She pulled a bottle of vintage bourbon from the liquor cabinet and poured 2 glasses. A toast to 3 years together. It hit me then. We had actually been together that long. And in all that time, the promise I made to that other girl remained unfulfilled. We drank a lot that night. As the glasses clinked and the bourbon warmed my veins, I finally saw it in Ava's face, a fleeting glimpse of the expression I knew so well. I grabbed my glass, stumbled over to her, and threw my arms around her. I felt her body go rigid. In 3 years, it was the first time I had ever initiated an embrace. I promised you I'd rebuild Lou Enterprises. I slurred, my voice a mix of 3 parts determination and 7 parts longing. And I will. I'll do it. She'd never heard me speak in that tone before. She relaxed into my arms, her lips brushing against mine. We'll do it together. No, it would kill me to see you struggle. The desire in Ava's eyes, now unmistakable, spilled over. She lost all control, pulling me in for a deep kiss. The next time I was fully conscious, it was the afternoon of the next day. I opened my eyes and immediately felt wrong. My whole body ached, and my eyelids felt like they were glued shut. Ethan, wake up. Stop sleeping. Get up and come shopping with me. I struggled to sit up, forcing 2 Advil down my throat before collapsing back onto the bed and falling into a dead sleep. When I finally woke up again, it was evening. I used the wall to steady myself as I walked out of the bedroom. The light was on in the study, my workspace. I pushed the door open. Ava was sitting at my desk. When she saw me, she waved me over. Ethan, you're awake. What's the password for your laptop? I walked over and saw my MacBook on the desk, stuck on the login screen. What's wrong? Her expression was a little unnatural, but she explained, there's a problem at the office. Someone leaked confidential information. It's just a routine check. I need to look at your computer. Maybe it was because I'd slept all day, but my vision suddenly went black for a second. My hand slammed down on the desk, making her jump. I haven't even been to your office. Why don't you just check the security footage? I said, my voice low. This is my personal laptop. You have no right to go through it. Ava's smile vanished, her expression turning serious. Ethan, what secrets could there be between us? We're a couple. We're going to spend the rest of our lives together. We should be completely honest with each other. My brain still felt foggy, and the words slipped out before I could stop them. Honest? Aren't you just treating me like a replacement for him? The moment I said it, I froze, instantly regretting it. But the words were out, and I couldn't take them back. I will not submit to a baseless investigation, I said, turning and walking back to the bedroom. I thought I had made myself perfectly clear that she would give me the respect I deserved. But when I woke up the next morning, my laptop was gone from the study. My phone was missing too. My head was splitting. Without even changing, I drove straight to the office. The moment I walked in, a few employees stared at me with strange expressions. I ignored them and stormed into Ava's office. There they were, my laptop and phone, sitting quietly on her desk. And sitting across from her was him, Julian, the one who had invited me for a drink, the one with the hotel key card. Ava, I was just making a casual comment. I didn't think you'd actually. His sentence was cut off as I burst in. Seeing me in my pajamas, Ava rushed over and pulled me inside. Ethan, it's freezing out. Why are you dressed like that? She tried to hand me a cup of hot coffee. Here, drink this. Warm up. I shoved the cup away, so hard that a few drops splashed onto her pale hand. I grabbed my laptop and phone and turned to leave, but Julian blocked my path. His eyes were filled with smug amusement, as if he were the master of this house, looking down on me from on high. What's the matter? Got something to hide in there? We should probably check it, just to be thorough. For the good of the company. I've always considered myself a patient man. In 3 years at this company, I had never lost my temper. But this was my breaking point. I stared at him, my face a cold mask. What are you implying? That you suspect me? I don't have access to the company's deepest secrets, and I haven't set foot in this office. You can check the security footage. He was unmoved. Let's just call you Mr. Cole for now. Don't make this ugly. You'll only embarrass yourself. A few security guards walked into the room, their expressions making it clear they would get physical if I refused. I put my things back on the desk and looked at Ava. The innocent have nothing to fear, she said, her voice strained. If there's nothing on there, it won't be a big deal to let them check. Her words cornered me completely. Security snatched the laptop and phone. A smirk played on Julian's lips, the mockery in his eyes deepening. He leaned back in his chair, casually fiddling with my iPhone. He seemed to be savoring my anger, drawing it out for a few minutes before he finally asked, his voice cold, "Password?" He tried one wrong password after another. Ava, barely suppressing her frustration, looked at me. Ethan, the password. Her furious expression was a world away from the face I kept searching for in my memories. The tiny flicker of hope I'd been holding on to was extinguished in that instant. I reverted to my usual cold detachment. My heart was a calm, empty lake. Why me? You owe me a reason. Seeing my expression, Ava seemed to realize she'd gone too far. She took my hand, trying to backtrack. Ethan, Julian said he saw someone sneak into my office. You know he's a major investor. I had to. Julian added, I saw a shadow slip into the office earlier. Just because someone might have gone into your office, you suspect me? You violate my privacy without even asking me first? What do you take me for? Watching her fumble for an explanation, I suddenly felt tired. The person who told her this was Julian. Her old flame, the one that got away. What was I so angry about? It was him. Of course, she would believe him unconditionally. Just like I would unconditionally believe Eva. I remembered our first meeting. It was here in this office. Lou Enterprises was on the verge of bankruptcy. Everyone was jumping ship. I was the only one swimming against the current, submitting my resume. The first time I saw her face, I froze. And when she looked up at me, she, too, seemed lost for a moment. Just like that, I was hired, and it felt natural when I was made head of the marketing department. And just as quickly, we fell into bed together. A man with another woman in his heart, and a woman with another man in hers. This relationship was doomed from the start. Thinking this, the burden in my heart lifted. I was a fool, and she was a fool. We didn't know each other a thing. The password is 1010. Ava, thinking her placating had worked, gave me a relieved smile. Ethan, I'll take you out for a huge dinner tonight to apologize. Julian quickly typed in the password. Just as he was about to start digging through my files, I put a hand out to stop him. Since we're doing this, let's have everyone watch, so you can properly clear my name. My voice was loud and clear, carrying easily to the employees eavesdropping outside. Ava finally sensed something was truly wrong. She started to speak, but I cut her off. And another thing, the company has come a long way. It might not have met my highest expectations, but the turnaround is respectable. I cannot accept baseless suspicion. After today, I'll be submitting my resignation. Let's have a clean break. I turned to Julian. No objections, I assume, Mr. Vance? I don't get involved in company operations, he said, his expression unchanged, tossing the responsibility back to Ava. I'm an investor. I just look at the dividends at the end of the year. Personnel decisions are up to the CEO. I turned back to Ava. No objections, Ms. Lou. Seeing the look on my face, Ava seemed to feel the situation spiraling out of her control. She could tell something in me had shifted, but she couldn't put her finger on what. It was as if I no longer cared that she suspected me. All I wanted was to prove my innocence and leave. She tried to lift my hand from the laptop, but it was like trying to move stone. Seeing my icy stare, a new wave of anger rose within her. Fine, she snapped. If you want an audience, then let's give everyone a show. Julian and the security guards carried my laptop to the main conference room. I watched Ava stare at Julian's back as he walked away, her eyes flickering with uncertainty. I felt it was necessary to be clear with her. Adults should begin with dignity and end with dignity. Ava, this is it for us. I thought she felt the same way, but her reaction took me by surprise. Her hand slipped, knocking over the coffee cup from earlier. The dark liquid splashed across her pants. Ethan, what are you saying? She sounded genuinely shocked. I couldn't understand who she was putting this act on for. You know me. Once I make a decision, I don't look back. Is it about this? I'll have him come back. We can look at it privately, just us. Her words tumbled out in a rush. And the key card. I lied to you. I don't know how it ended up in my pocket. Her speech was disjointed, her panic plain to see. So she knew all along. She had just been too lazy to explain herself at the time. And truth be told, I knew she was lying too. I just didn't care. If I didn't care then, I certainly didn't care now. Your old flame is back, I said calmly. What do you need to stand in for anymore? As for the new client, the project managers under me can handle it. I trust their abilities are no worse than mine. Ava's face grew even paler. You knew? That you were a substitute? Yes, I knew from the very beginning. She opened her mouth to say something, but Julian interrupted, walking back into the room. I followed them to the conference room, where I connected my laptop to the projector. They sat me in a chair at the side of the room, thoughtfully flanked by 2 guards. A couple of IT guys sat down at the computer and began their work. Half an hour later, I saw Julian lean over and whisper something in Ava's ear. Her expression faltered, but only for a second before it hardened with resolve. Ethan, she announced, we also need to check your cloud accounts. At this point, my opinion no longer mattered. After giving them my passwords, I couldn't stop myself from pulling out a cigarette. As I exhaled a cloud of smoke, the world in front of me blurred. When did I become this person? As I was lost in thought, a low voice broke the silence. Ethan, there's one more hidden folder. I glanced at the screen and nodded. Password is 1010. The sealed folder opened, and a cascade of countless photos flooded the projector screen. What is? Ava's pupils dilated as she stared, transfixed, at the images. Every single photo was of a girl I had taken pictures of, laughing, crying, reading, playing video games. The girl looked so much like Ava that for a split second, even she couldn't tell if it was her or someone else. Hello again, I whispered, smiling at the photos. Just then, one of the IT guys handed my phone back to me. Wow, mister. Cool, so you and Ms. Lou were together back in college. No wonder you two are so close. His comment made the atmosphere in the room even stranger. His colleague nudged him, whispering, that's not Ms. Lou. The slideshow of photos continued to scroll on the screen, the girl's radiant smile like a scythe, cutting into everyone's heart. Do we need to keep checking? Julian asked, looking at me. The pleasure in his eyes was obvious. He gave a provocative smirk and waved his hand, signaling the tech guys to stop. Since there's no issue, we're done here. But before they could close the folder, Ava rushed forward. She clicked on a random photo, enlarging it. Her hand trembled as she pointed at the screen, her voice shaking as she demanded, who is she? I ignored her, walking past to shut down the laptop. As I turned to leave, she grabbed my arm, her grip like a vice. Who is she? She asked again. I crushed the cigarette out in a nearby ashtray and answered her flatly. She was the love of my life. In an instant, the room emptied out, leaving just the 3 of us. Ava's face was a mask of disbelief. She stared into my eyes, her voice a fragile whisper. Ethan, you were using me as a substitute. So what if I was? Perhaps because she had never been treated this way, Ava lost control for the first time in front of me. Her hand tightened on my arm, her nails digging deep into my flesh. How could you? How dare you? I wrenched my arm free and started gathering my things. Once I was sure I hadn't forgotten anything, I ignored the broken woman behind me and nodded at Julian. The inspection is over. I can go now, right? Back at the apartment, I started packing. I didn't have much. One large suitcase was enough for all my personal belongings. The rest of the stuff had been bought by Ava over the years. At first, she thought I was after her money, so she tried to solve every problem with a wire transfer or a gift. Later, when she realized money wasn't my motivation, she slowly started to change. She began buying me clothes, expensive watches. I told her I didn't like those things, but she bought them for me anyway, tirelessly. Eventually, a whole room was filled with luxury goods I never touched. I hated them. They all had Julian's shadow on them. Every style, every color, every brand was chosen according to his taste. And in the same way, I hated seeing her in designer dresses and couture outfits, because in them, I couldn't find a trace of her. Of course, she never listened to my suggestions. I left all my work files and notebooks on a desk. I'd done everything I could. The rest of her journey was her own to walk. I dragged my suitcase to the car. While I reached the intersection, I felt a momentary wave of disorientation. I had no idea where to go next. I've always been a coward. Ava was the ivory tower I had built to protect myself. I knew that the moment I stepped out of it, the first reality I would have to face was Eva's death. I had been running from it for 3 years. I didn't want to hide anymore. I missed Eva so much. I wanted to go see her, to tell her that I had kept my promise. I pulled out my phone and called my mom. Mom, I'll be home tonight. Can you save me some dinner? On the other end, I heard a flurry of footsteps, then her voice flustered and happy. Okay, yes, of course. I hadn't been home in the 3 years since Eva passed away. Avoidance was my default setting. It was late when I arrived. From a distance, I could see the dim, yellow light of the living room lamp. As soon as I parked, my mom came rushing out with a flashlight to meet me. Hurry, come inside. Your father made ribs today. She chattered on, a stream of questions and observations. How has work been these past few years? You must have had it tough out there, huh? Look at you, you've gotten so thin. She hadn't changed much, and a small part of me settled. I answered her questions as we walked into the house. As we talked, her eyes started to get red. At home, the food tasted better than ever, or maybe that was just my imagination. I ate 3 whole helpings. We talked for a long time over dinner, all of us smiling, but we shared a silent, mutual agreement not to mention Eva's name. When I went to my old bedroom, nothing had changed. The Nirvana poster on the wall was faded, and the paperback I was reading when I left was still on my desk. Everything looked the same, but I knew everything was different. The drawing that used to be next to the poster was gone. The framed photo on the desk had disappeared, and the glass jar of paper stars hidden under my bed was nowhere to be found. But even without the physical objects, their images were burned into my mind. You're so clumsy. You have to use the very tip of the pencil. See? Then it looks like the wind has a shape. Oh my God, stop being so awkward for the picture. She had thrown her arm around my shoulders, pulling us close together. My arm brushed against the soft curve of her chest, and I panicked, stumbling and falling right to the ground. Click! In the photo, my face was bright red, while she was doubled over with laughter. That entire jar of paper stars. We had folded every single one by hand. Ethan, when we have kids someday, we'll open these stars and tell them our story. See? We had planned for so many years, planned for so long. We had even talked about our children. But I lay on my bed and let the memories swallow me whole. A rural town is painted in muted colors. That's why Ava's red Porsche seemed so jarringly out of place. She was leaning against it, and when she saw me come out of the house, she looked up. For a moment, I was lost. So many years ago, another girl had stood in that exact spot, waiting for me. I almost expected her to shout, "Ethan, if you don't hurry up, I'm going to kick your butt." I stood frozen, my heart a tumultuous sea. Ava walked toward me. In the bright sunlight, it was as if I could see another girl walking with her, a phantom overlay. "Ethan." Her voice shattered the illusion. "What are you doing here?" "I've thought about it, Ethan. Let's start over." The roar of an engine interrupted us. I turned to see a pickup truck filled with some of my old high school buddies, guys I hadn't seen in years. They spotted me and waved out the window. "Well, look what the cat dragged in. You finally came back. 3 years, man. You come back and don't even call your boys? We're coming by with beer tonight." They were clearly on their way somewhere, so after the quick greeting, they sped off. That's right. I've been running for 3 years. I had no right to use Ava as a replacement, to desecrate my own memories and disrespect Eva's. "Let's get married." The words floated into my ears, and I stared at her, stunned. It was still the same flawless face, but I no longer had any desire to search it for traces of Eva. I took a quiet step back, putting more space between us. "No." She tried to say something else, but I cut her off. "I used you as a substitute, and you used me as one. We don't owe each other anything. But we were together for 3 years. Everything was fine, wasn't it? Fine? Was it fine that I knew she was entangled with Julian and said nothing? Or was it that I tolerated everything, without question or complaint, and worked myself to the bone for her company like a loyal dog? I shook my head and took another step back. You think it was fine because I accepted everything unconditionally, because I put up with it all without setting any boundaries. A cold wind blew, lifting the hair from her face and revealing her pale cheeks. Maybe she was thinking of the unexplained hotel key card, or maybe the conversation about substitutes in her office. But all of that was in the past. I felt the need to make everything crystal clear to avoid any future trouble. The reason I didn't care that you were involved with another man is because I never, not once, thought of you as my woman. I held up my hand to stop her from speaking. That's it. I hope Blue Enterprises continues to grow and prosper. That way, her hard work and mine won't have been for nothing. That night, my friends came over with a case of beer. After a few rounds, the usual filters dissolved and the truth flowed as freely as the alcohol. Did you know Eva was secretly putting together a wedding gift for you guys? What? The room started to spin. I reached out trying to grab onto something, but my hands found only air. My friend, Mark, pulled a box out from under my old bed. Inside were hundreds of tiny, shimmering paper stars. He picked one at random, unfolded it, cleared his throat, and read it aloud in a dramatic voice. Hello, future Ethan. This is 15-year-old Eva. By the time you read this, I'm probably your wife, right? Hee, aren't I beautiful? You jerk, Ethan. This is 18-year-old Eva. You talked to another girl today, and I'm mad. You better come apologize to me right now. There were hundreds of stars in the box, each one a record of sensitive, passionate girls' every joy and sorrow. They handed me the rest of the stars. Eva wanted us to burn them, Mark said, his voice quiet. But I was selfish and kept them. Now I'm giving them back to their rightful owner. As I took the heavy box, my mind was suddenly pulled back to the day she died. I only have two wishes in my life. One is to be your wife, and the other is to rebuild the company my grandfather started. It's a shame I couldn't do either. I guess I'll die without ever escaping the label of the illegitimate daughter. The next day, I took the box and drove to Eva's grave. I wasn't surprised to see Eva's car parked on the side of the road. She got out, her face flushed with an unhealthy red. Ethan, let's just talk. I felt we had nothing left to say. I shook my head and held up the box. Seeing I was about to walk away, Eva quickly opened her car door and pulled Julian out from the passenger seat. This time, Julian's eyes were genuinely bloodshot with rage. You fall in love with him? He snarled, pointing at me, his voice thick with disbelief. You're throwing me away for a substitute? The sky was gray and overcast. I didn't want to waste any more time here. I looked at Julian's hysterical display and found it almost laughable. Eva looked for someone who resembled you. It seems romantic, but it was just an excuse to justify her own infidelity. You son of a bitch. Julian screamed, losing all composure. He couldn't stand to hear the woman he loved insulted like that. I turned to leave. Was she dead? I asked over my shoulder. Is that why she needed a replacement? This time, no one tried to stop me. Behind me, I could hear the fragmented sounds of their argument starting up again. Ethan, you're not allowed to forget me. For the rest of your life, I can't be by your side. But you're still not allowed to forget me. I found a video file inside the box. Judging by the background, she must have recorded it while she was in the hospital. The walls were white, and the flowers I'd sent her were on the bedside table. In the video, you could only see her in profile, her face terrifyingly pale, but her personality was still as bold and straightforward as ever. And after I'm gone, you're not allowed to be sad. But you're not allowed to be not sad, either. If you're sad, I'll be heartbroken. And if you're not sad, I'll be heartbroken too. I'm here. Russell. The phone was quickly hidden under the blankets. All you could hear was my voice. Hey, what are you doing here so late? Go home. During that time, the pain would often wake her up at night. She couldn't keep any food down. In just 2 weeks, she had become a frail shadow of herself. She had always been a proud girl. She didn't want me to see her so weak. Every time I went to the hospital to see her, she would shoo me away, telling me to wait for her at home. I was so weak back then. I actually listened and went home to wait. If I could do it all over again, I would have held her hand and told her firmly, I love you, and I'm staying right here beside you. The screen in the video was still black. But a second later, my own voice rang out, clear and sudden. Okay, I know. Eva, I love you. So you have to get better, okay? The phone was picked up again. It was the same familiar profile. I love you too. The video ended there. So I had told her. In my weakest moment, I had still managed to declare my love for her, loud and clear. I suppose it was a happy ending, in a way. Every time I confessed my love, she had heard it. I stayed at Eva's grave for a long time that day. I unfolded every single star and, one by one, let the wind carry them away, releasing them back to the heavens. After that day, my life slowly returned to normal. I truly began to accept that she was gone. I started working again, going out for drinks with friends, talking. For some reason, I took up folding stars myself, tucking my own joys and sorrows into their paper folds. Aside from the occasional red Porsche parked on a side street in town, everything fell back into place. And just like that, 3 more years drifted by. While cleaning my room one day, I found a single forgotten star. I don't know when it was folded or how it ended up under my bed. It was covered in a thin layer of dust. I carefully unfolded it. The writing on the paper was faded, but I could still make out the words. 18-year-old Eva had coolly written the words that her 24-year-old self could never bring herself to say. Hey, Ethan, it's 18-year-old Eva. It's okay if you forget me, too.